I do a great job, so my kids spend a lot of time there and loves the school projects and the trendy trash and rock is a great place to go to that project. And we are live. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to the March edition of the Finance and Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting. Welcome to live streamers. Most of you are in this organisation or in this building, so hello, glad to see you tuned in. We've got a full complement today, which is awesome, so everyone is present. We have no apologies. Do we have anyone needing a leave of absence? Charlie needs a new chair.
Yes, Chair, I will require a leave of absence for the meeting, thank you.
The April meeting.
I'm not sure what date it is. It will be the 16th of April.
16th of April.
Quite late.
Pardon?
It's quite late.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not questioning.
Yeah, I think it's because we had the Western.
It's a private.
The
Western Queensland Conference is on the first.
Anyone else need a leave of absence? No? Right. We have somebody to move.
That's not you.
Oh, yeah. Seconded. Councillor Nixon, that we support Councillor Daniel's request for a leave of absence on the 16th of April. All in favour? It's closed.
We're warming up.
Awesome, well done. For the confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, they have been tabled. That meeting started off with one I thought we'd get through pretty quickly, closed at 10:06 a.m. Before I'll just get you quickly, just have a quick glance over those. I know you had them earlier. Can I just say a massive shout out to Lisa. We had these agendas last Wednesday?
Yeah.
Last Wednesday.
An early agenda is greatly appreciated. Okay.
So I think that's the earliest we've ever had an agenda ever in my time.
That's a
On council, so that was awesome. So, like I said, we should have plenty of time to read those minutes there. So, someone have a quiz for Councillor Rob, question
I
or?
just ask. Oh no, that's all right. Because it's okay. Councillor Daniels left the meeting and then it was
That's right.
5-0. Yeah, no, that's fine.
I did check that. It is. That's an accurate information. Moved Councillor Rob that we received, or we confirmed the minutes of the previous meeting. Seconded Councillor Wimbledon, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Any business arising out of those minutes, councillors? Anything you wanted to check in on? Right, keep moving. Review of outstanding meeting actions. Not a super long list, but anything anyone wanted to check on there? Mr. Mayor, anything you can say publicly about where we're at with the local airport? The review of the management options for local government airports.
As in the bundling potential?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it is, it's known that obviously a number of airports through the, I guess you say, the tutelage of Queensland Treasury Corporation have looked at obviously the opportunity of forming an entity that could actually best manage and promote the regional airports. That has been an ongoing discussion. There's been probably up to 6 or 7 airports that have indicated an interest in that over a period of 18 months now, and for different reasons and for different circumstances, they've either continued to participate in that or to, I guess, reserve, I suppose, and see just where they went to. At this point in time, I think there are some other airports that are currently negotiating with QTC and have provided, I guess, the necessary financial background to consider them being included in the entity. And I believe, I one of our neighbouring regional airports, one of our larger ones, is having discussions right now. And obviously at some point of time, I think in the very near future, they may make an announcement about that. So yeah, we're still in there. Certainly Gladstone Regional Council and ourselves have always maintained a steadfast interest in an entity that certainly benefited the communities that they serve. And obviously if we can get the critical mass with another airport, then I think that will proceed and they're well and truly achieved.
All moving in the right direction in those sense. On there is, reference to the asset disposal policy amendment, but have we ever done anything on that?
That's something for.
Still planning on that?
It's probably something.
Like our resource bank?
Yeah, my colleague on the text should probably follow that up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
Fine, that's a
and you know what, that could be, given all these issues with dumps and if we created a resource bank, maybe we could put a whole heap of stuff that was destined for a dump, for recycling back into communities, into public art projects or place making. Because I think we've probably given what we're doing with waste as an opportunity. We used to send a lot of things to landfill.
It's actually a relevant point because we had a massive depot clean-up last week across the Shire and effectively appropriating quite that assets to be disposed of. I think when it's going to go forward this week. So if it doesn't sound like the wrong move, but holistically, that there is opportunity to say what is the secondary use. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yes. Councillor.
Just on that, sale of cleaning out of depots and things, there's and Jason might be able to tell you exactly what it is, but we were talking about reusing, or selling stuff out of gravel and things off the sides of roads, but what was the term you used about selling stuff out of, or having a sale of used goods? What was that?
The legislative requirement is to go through the disposal policy, so the asset disposal policy, but there was also that community bank that we discussed for our own community groups.
So we amended our policy, to allow us to have the ability to direct it into placement in public art, like to create a resource bank.
And that's just a small thing, but there's an organisation in Springshaw that would like some playground equipment, and we know that there's playground equipment being replaced and that sort of thing out of council. How do we go about, through the right facilities, but go through the process of acquiring some.
Reallocated.
Reallocating.
I don't know if there's any formal process in place within this organisation. If you're talking about swings and playground equipment, the problem is the old equipment wouldn't meet the national standards anymore. It's not the only reason it's being replaced. You'd be leaving yourself open to a risk claim if you went to put used equipment into another playground area, because it doesn't meet the standards. So council provides it free of charge to a community group.
No,
Or you can sell it to a community group. It no longer meets national standards. You leave yourself as a council, as a claim. Someone calls up there because it's broken. I know.
Might be different if we put it into someone's backyard and choose at their own risk, but not I think just saying, even if we were to gift it to someone and into a public space, we'd have to make sure we meet the standard.
That's right.
Yeah, it goes to a
It's a public space, yeah.
All right, noted.
Okay.
All right, we've talked about that resource bank, and I guess there's a lot happening in the waste, and we are doing a bit of asset disposal at the moment, and I mean, just on that, the auction this weekend, a lot of work's gone into that, and it looks like there's a great lineup of plant and equipment there, so a lot of chatter about it in the public. So it'd be great if we can get a
I think,
100% clearance.
from what I've seen on the website, a lot of material that would have in the past gone to the waste facility. Old containers, buckets full of tools, banners, they're real organisations instead of throwing them in the waste facility. But most people make use of.
They will, they certainly will. Someone commented on one of those clearance sales, what's a $50 knick-knack here or there? People love it. All right, so no more, nothing else I'm going to want to reflect on there. We've got the upcoming agenda items there. Any commentary about that, people? We've been saying it all year, but we do have to bulk that up. What are we up to? Petitions, Gerard.
Unfortunately, no news is good news. No.
I thought I was one. All right, no petitions this week. Material personal interests, conflict of interest, personal gifts and benefits. Anything to declare, anybody? All right. So we fly right into customer and commercial services, the Emerald Saleyards Coordination Committee meeting from the 29th of January. Michelle Webster.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My apologies for being late. I was still up with the CEO.
Forgiven.
Sorry?
You're all forgiven. I didn't even notice you sneak in there.
Oh. Minutes of the Saleyards Committee meeting, councillors, held on the 29th of January are there for you. There were no actions as such that came from that meeting. I suppose a couple of matters to touch on. Workplace health and safety is still a concern. We've had another incident occur last week at the Saleyards, so I'm meeting with the manager of the Saleyards with the intent to meet with the Agents Association in that regard. These recent incidents are not council workers, but we have an obligation as the owner of the site, and it is in essence a council workplace. So some concerns in regards to 3 incidents in a matter of a couple of months is troublesome. So we will be having some conversations in regards to that. Unfortunately, due to the weather conditions, good and bad, the Saleyards are still seeing large numbers on a weekly basis in regards to cattle being processed. I think we had another sale last week of around 3,500 cattle processed through the Saleyards. So the financials are looking fairly good, but I suppose there'll be a point in time that will come where the numbers certainly will be dramatically reduced, I do imagine. We're very pleased, I suppose now we can formally recognise the funding that's been provided to the Saleyards. Just over $2 million has been announced in the last week, and also then another announcement over the weekend from federal government and the local member Ken O'Dowd in regards to just over $1 million for the Saleyards from the federal government, as well as the Minister for State Government also finally providing press release in regards to just over $1 million also for the Saleyards. So there will need to be a meeting of the Saleyards manager in regards to how we progress that funding. Council, I suppose, is in a position where, and I alluded yesterday to councillors that we would have gone to the 1920 budget, seeking council's 50% contribution for, significant infrastructure works like the holding yards, which off the top of my head around a $1.6 million spend. So we need some decision in regards to how we may appropriate that money, whether that will then the federal money, like we've done at the airport, then becomes council contribution. We think some of this spending should also be able to assist us with providing some additional worker shade at the facility. So we'll have some conversations and update council in that regard, but that's a good problem to have.
It's awesome, isn't it? And I mean, between Western Queensland, the state government, the federal government, and those various programs, it will really bring that facility up to a pretty good standard, won't it? There won't be too many gaps out there, and I think it's something to be very proud of, and obviously, congratulations to you and the team for the quality of the applications that are going in, because they're obviously ticking the boxes.
Oh, look, it's a team effort, and, you know, I think what's the most exciting thing is the recognition of that driver into the local economy, and, you know, I think it comes from that, Madam Chair.
It's really awesome.
The ducks are starting to line up.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
It's very good,
So if we can just get that digital display sorted in some manner, whether that's through, I noticed the mayor shaking his head down there, whether that is through our, you know, our smart sale yard, which is, you know, that is something that did come from the stakeholder engagement sessions, and whether, you know, we look at developing an app as opposed to putting technology there that is subject to the elements and dust and what have you, and we continue putting money into having these things fixed. So we certainly will be exploring those things. We also did discuss at the meeting that we've been having an annual stakeholder engagement forum, and we would expect to hold that probably in July to discuss what will be provided in budget and the projects moving forward.
Do you normally get a good roll up to the annual stakeholder forum?
And also it's where the State Arts Expo has been held in Roma, so we're sort of thinking that if we can hold it prior to that, we might, people might come to us first before they go to the expo.
I saw that in the minutes.
Yeah, so, and also our biosecurity lady, Rachel O'Brien, she comes from Mulridge, so it'd make sense for her to come through us and have a meeting, and I think it'd be, timely actually, because we'll be over people are early weaning. I think that the drop off in sales won't happen yet for another few months, because there'll be weaners coming on board, over the next 2 or 3 months, so it's not looking good in parts of Central Highlands.
And Madam Chair, the other matter discussed there is in regards to the bull sale from the Central Red, so there's commitment there in regards to for the next 3 years for that sale. So that's probably all to touch on. I'm not sure if the Chair, Councillor Roll, had anything else she wishes to add.
Awesome. Well, the minutes are there, councillors. Would someone be like to move we receive those? Anyone? Councillor Roll, I was going to move. Councillor Roll, second. Councillor McComb, all in favour. Carried unanimously as we expect. Thank you very much. Moving on to departmental updates, customer and commercial services again, Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, I'll take the report as read. I'll just touch on a couple of high points, and then happy to take any questions that you may have. So our work in regards to Dr. Aerodrome Landing area continues. So we're progressing work at all of the aerodrome landing areas. We tenders are out for the large Project Denison, and as the manager likes to refer to the project. I believe that we are shortlisting currently. Gerard, you might be able to assist me in regards to the progress of that project at the moment.
There's next Thursday, there's a tender briefing by the shortlisted tenderers on site. I'll be attending, but basically that is the precursor to the final round of submitting their tenders and then the evaluation. That's where we are Thursday morning, but that will be the final step in then preparing the submissions.
Thank you. So stakeholder consultation meeting in regards to the proposed closure of runway 1533 is being held this week. I do believe that that's on Thursday this week. Obviously, councillors participated in Airport Master Plan review consultation yesterday. There was also a consultation that occurred with a number of stakeholders post the meeting with council yesterday as well by GHD. We're here. We proposed a whole meeting with the consultants and Carol Vertigan, who's engaged working on the business case for the air hub in the next couple of weeks to ensure that all parties are on the same page in that regard. So that will be progressed. We are progressing the application for funding for the additional screening equipment that is required at the airport in regards to the new regulations and the full body scanning equipment that will be required by December 2020. The airport have also undertaken some further works in regards to the helipads for Rolleston and Springshaw, so we will see something within the capital budget items in that regard. We can also acknowledge now formally as well the state government funding for the GA area. That now takes us and covers actually council's contribution. So that project is, depending upon cost, is almost fully funded by the state and the federal government. So that has been appreciated by the airport as well. And as councillors are aware, we're teeing up that project with the large runway overlay so that we can get cost efficiencies in regards to having the asphalt mix on site. You have in your report there, councillors, the issues identified in the CASA audit and the progress in regards to those matters. There is no non-conformances in regards to safety findings, which is a very positive thing. So a matter of things as outlined within the report in which we can improve upon. So I'll move on. Any questions on airport?
Yes, sorry, through the chair, could I take you back to the garden entrance, please?
Yes.
An outcome is expected before the end of February.
I'm not aware, Councillor Nixon. There was a hold up with one of the councillors on the judging panel providing their response. So I've not heard anything in the last week, but I think that was very near in regards to determining. And unfortunately, we've only had, I think, about 3 submissions, unfortunately. But
I'm pretty sure we do have a winner.
Chair, we had the first and the second place here at the answer.
oh, okay.
Jim, through Solomon, and obviously some assistance from Tony Price.
Yes.
So I think we have a first and a second place here, and I suspect a giant cheque will be forthcoming. So thank you very much for coordinating that. I know it took some time, and thank you, Nita Milroy, as well, for this living contribution.
Certainly a lot of effort went into some of the applications.
Thank
A lot
you.
of detail.
Thank you for that update. So that will, as councillors may be aware, there's 50,000 of Job Works for Queensland money associated with that project as well. So we'll now be pushing forward to ensure that we have that spent by the 30th of June. So. We may see though, you know, due to drought conditions as well though, that we would not necessarily undertake plantings and what have you, but there certainly is works, I think, you know, getting water reticulation to the area. It's probably cost around $28,000 in that alone. So I would think there are infrastructure works we can do to certainly spend the state government money by that time, but I'm sure.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yes. Moving on to the quarry. So the quarry is progressing quite well, continuing on with certainly additional sales, which is very good. Both not only out of Shepton Quarry, but also our work in working with our infrastructure in regards to our various road projects right throughout the region, in regards to remote quarry and mobile crushing activities that we manage on behalf of the organisation. The Drill and Blast recently conducted at Shepton, and I will, I'm not sure if I advised council previously, but there was an inspection that was conducted by a regulator in regards to the Department of Environment, Health and Protection, and that I'm very pleased to say that that compliance check only brought back a finding in regards to where we had undertaken a blast outside of the allowable allowance. So councillors will be aware of all the work that we have done at the quarry, so I'm very pleased in regards to the regulator's inspection of that site, and okay, we can change and make sure that we last within the required timeframes, but I think that that's a very good outcome. I'll touch on the expression of interest in confidential session, councillors. That's probably all to update you in regards to the panel.
Thank you very much for questions. I'd just like to comment that the findings of the audit out at the airport that CASA undertook, very pleasing to see, not a lot of big ones there, a lot of things that we sort of knew about, for example, the exercise. There was a good reason why that one didn't take place, but there's nothing serious there.
No.
It's all relatively easy to fix and not very costly.
And, we do operate in a highly regulated environment, so, to think that, we would never have anything come back, I think is an impossibility, but there are findings in regards to major safety issues and what have you, and, council's commitment to the airport as well, and we know and we'll await the prices in regards to, there will be a significant investment in regards to the runway and its strengthening and bringing it to where it needs to be.
And just to comment on, as you know, we've got that community consultation this Thursday around 15:33 and what we might be potentially doing or not doing in that space. But for me, what I thought was really interesting was when we had the session yesterday with GHD and looking at the airport master plan, is there an opportunity to, as part of that consultation, talk to those present who obviously are very interested in the aviation space to get a little bit of feedback about the planning side of things, or would you do that as a separate consultation? And the reason I say that is the bit that they talked about in relation to 1533, where they said that if we were to shorten that runway and the compliance, and I'm not really using the right aviation terms, but it seemed like if you had a shorter runway, there was less rigor or compliance, or maybe not compliance, but less conditioning or required for a shorter runway, and it seemed like we've got a longer runway for 1533 than what we might really require, which requires a higher standard. But if we had that 800 metres or lower, which would still meet requirements if we were to keep the runway, it will be at a lesser cost and standard to maintain.
Madam Chair, I think the issue as I understand it is irrespective of the size of it, because it sits within the type of airport that we have, then we can't deal with it as an aerodrome landing area. However, we are making approaches to the regulator and being supported by a national group in that regard to see whether we can push that case to have it identified, recognised as an aerodrome landing area. That lessens then some of the regulatory requirements in which that we have for that strip. So we're certainly pushing forward with that avenue as well.
Yeah.
And in regards to the consultation, I don't know off the top of my head particularly who were the individuals involved in yesterday's afternoon, but I will check with the manager of airport to ensure that we have good coverage in regards to general aviation users. I'm quite sure that he would have within the mix, but I've also been.
I do know, Chair, that there were local aviators at that meeting yesterday with GHD.
Were they? Great, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. And they will go to the meeting Thursday.
Oh, they will, great.
Yeah, so have been talking to them, and one of their comments was that, and this makes this whole thing a catch-22, is that the general aviation avoids Emerald Airport because of a whole lot of reasons. They will fly to Longreach, fly to Townsville, because they can't. It's either too costly or it's too hard to get in and out of. It's not fitting Emerald, and I was told that this particular person flies to Townsville. It's owned and run by the Air Force, and it's easier to get into Townsville than it is to get into Emerald and through Emerald. So I think these are the sort of things that will come up in the meeting on Thursday, which makes it a real catch-22 when you think that when we have the manager of the airport saying that there's nobody using the airport in general aviation, but if there's a reason for that, so that's where I think we need to have a real look at what is actually happening out there.
And that's why I'm so pleased to hear that, because if there's an opportunity for our consultants to hear some of those messages from those users, that's going to be pretty useful. So so that's really cool.
And I think just maybe a point of clarification, our data is based on radio frequency in regards to its landing. So when people say that they are using the airport, they're using the long runway, not using the cross runway. So.
No, I'm not going to go into that sort of, but having been in aviation myself a bit, there are some points that these people have raised, and they're pilots from, there's old and young, so I think that they'll bring a good representation to the meeting on Thursday, so that's a positive thing.
That's really positive. Excellent. No more questions from Michelle, because we will keep moving, that's all right. So would somebody like to move the receipt of the customer and commercial services report there? Move councillor Denman, second councillor Brimmelcombe, all in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle. Moving on to departmental updates with construction utilities, Gerard Giroux. Over to you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'd like to manage this one on. I'm going to ask Jason to bring out to speak to the infrastructure items, either to the water utility ones, and I'll just touch on the two items on. Over to you, Jason.
Good morning, Councillor. So I'll just take the reports as read and skim through on the high points. With the capital delivery update, again, we provided a table there of the progress. NZRA is continuing to be one of our priorities with the day labour delivery, and also using the hybrid model there, so that's continuing and focus for us at the moment to meet those timeframes. Construction has commenced on a pave and seal of Glengalen Road over the last couple of weeks, and we've got a construction crew working a roster system there to try and get some more efficiencies on that project. And the pave and seal on Bonnie Road as part of the CQIP or the Yamala enterprise area is continuing as well. One project which I haven't highlighted in here, which has been a great achievement since writing this, was the sealing, pave and seal on Stingers Lane in Springshaw. Very good result with that project, and the crew definitely need some congratulations on that. So,
can we talk about these things as we go through, or do you want to wait?
Yeah.
Jason, just on when you're saying the Comet Downs Road and the subsequent gravel resheet, when they first did that, they're using what do you do? Gravel, work it down to crush gravel, so that and apparently, well, there's always been a comment from the management in Springshaw, manager in Springshaw, that we have to wait and see how well that gravel stands up and holds up, and apparently on the Comet Downs Road it didn't hold up very well in patches. Is that correct?
Look, I haven't had any feedback directly to say that it has or hasn't. Every gravel performs differently. From the previous NDRA event where we used a crushed gravel to TMR standard, it didn't hold up well, so we learned from that. We've used the Austroads unsealed gravel roads specifications this time, and all that gravel has to meet that requirement. it does meet a requirement that is recommended for gravel roads. But in saying that, every gravel does perform differently. Sometimes it unravels slightly, it becomes slippery on top. Other times we have different other circumstances, but we'll continue to monitor it, and if necessary, what we do have the benefit of is if the gravel is down there, we can utilise that mixed in with the existing and to get a better outcome in the long term.
Yeah, and I think that's something that needs to be made very clear to the public, that exactly that sometimes it unravels quickly, some parts, but it's really, we've really got to keep trying it, because there's so much comment about using uncrushed gravel that just becomes bony, especially in these dry conditions. So it's really, we've really got to work with, we've got to work with what we've got and what we can get. The public have to be aware of it as well.
Yeah, and we'll continue to monitor each site and learn from what's working and what's not, and implement those learnings in the future. So again, that capital table's there. If there's any specific detail on that, I can answer that. We'll move on to the weed and seed spread. Council often fields questions with regard to weed and seed and movement of plant, etc. We have a fairly defined process in our environmental management plans. The council has a standard environmental management plan which is adapted and tailored to a site-specific environmental management plan on our projects, which addresses any particular risks associated with each site. That environmental management plan, I think there's an extract there which has the requirements of washdowns prior to moving plant, etc. And that's generally what we abide by. When we engage a contractor, they have the ability to either run under our environmental management plan or prepare and submit their own environmental management plan. That gets assessed and it has to be of equal or at least better than our plan for us to approve their plan to be used on site. So if it's not up to scratch, we would then go back to them and ask them to bring it up to at least our standard or better before they would be given possession of site. So there are particular areas in the Shire which we are aware of that do have particular circumstances around them, and that's all written into the contracts prior to being advertised. We then have, it's an obligation of our council staff then to monitor that and make sure that it does happen. And that's something that we're trying to increase that supervision or surveillance of that to make sure that it is occurring.
So Jason, just on that one, as you know, we had a little bit of heat from a particular area, and it seems to be every time we have a contractor in the area, whether it's clearing the vegetation or roadside slashing, or is that area where, and I'm talking about the southern central lines on the Carnarvon Highway.
Yep.
Is that particular area, you mentioned that you know of some of those areas, is that one of the areas that is included into those contractor arrangements and that they know about that up front?
Definitely, yeah. So the previous example of that engagement of a contractor fully outlined the requirements, which our staff have been operating under the last 10 years or so. It's known locations for washdown so that we can prevent the spread of weed through that. It's a unique situation where there's an infested area, a clean area, infested and then clean. So it's a unique situation where we have to strategically wash down in certain locations. And that was all outlined in the contract and was being adhered to by the contractor. What we've proposed is we've written to that contract, to the property owner, to schedule a meeting with them to see what more we can do in this particular circumstance, to clearly outline what we currently, our current situation is and current procedure is, and if they would request any changes to that procedure in the future. So we haven't heard back yet, so we'll continue down that.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I mean, as much as I like a colourful email, those emails are getting more colourful every time they come through, so.
Yeah, and there's other areas in the Shire, Acadia Bell is another classic example down there. There's some particular areas around, you know, and we, one area is where we take water from one of the creeks, and our our water carts going in and out of there becoming an issue. So we've got procedures around that as well. So where possible, we're definitely willing to work with the property owners to get a good outcome.
I suppose it's just it's important that you have that opportunity and have that conversation so they do understand what it is that we are doing. And I think over time our practices have changed, and as you say, we've got that awareness of those hotspots, and maybe it's a case that the landholders in that area aren't aware with their updated practices and how we are managing contractors and what their requirements are. I suppose at the end of the day, when you have clean country and you're against infested country or whatever it is, like you really want to protect that status. So I can understand people being so passionate about it. And at the end of the day, if that's breached in any way, it's hard to undo it. And I guess it's about having confidence that that we've got a good framework, but B, that the people that are on the ground are actually abiding by what they say they're going to do.
Correct.
And how we make sure that happens.
Chair, just as for interdepartmental consultation, if that could be taken to the next CRG meeting down in Arcadia Valley, please, that for an update.
Yeah,
Through them.
we should just table that. That's probably because that's the area I suppose where we feel the most comment from. I think it's probably one where it's good if we reassure the community about our practices.
And definitely, and if we can work with them to to change it to suit their needs, then they're more than happy to do that.
Sorry, Jason.
You're right, thank you. And the last one for me is roadside slashing and fire risk. Obviously, with the current conditions, it is an ongoing risk with the slashing. We have rolled our slashing back to bare minimum at the moment. There are some places where there is still some grass growing in the east, so we're continuing operations there. Generally, I guess what I've covered off in this as part of the report is the balancing of the obligations. So we have an obligation for a safe roadside environment for the travelling public, and that's a contractual condition under our RAPC with TMR. And there's intervention levels once it gets to a certain height that we have to be seen to be either have a plan in place to mitigate that or discuss at the TMR. There's an obligation to reduce fuel load in the road reserve, again for the neighbouring properties. If there is a big fuel load and there's a risk of fire from the travelling public, or in the event of an accident or something like that. And then also a lot of these roads are stock routes, so there's an obligation to keep the fodder there for the travelling stock. So there's competing priorities there that we need to work with, and we try and manage that to the best of our ability. But going back to the slashing part of it, there is a standard operating procedure which does specify that on a daily basis we monitor the fire risk that's put out by the department and assess the risk based on that fire risk, assess the risk of our operations, and if it is too high then the operation stops. So it is a standard occurrence, and then we've also had the ability to change our process. For instance, the increased use of a water cart following the slasher, or a vehicle with firefighting equipment. So all those are taken in a risk management approach to that part of the operation. Unfortunately, sometimes, with all the risk mitigation, the fires do start on occasions when the slasher hits a rock or something that's in the ground that can't be seen. And that's where the risk mitigation comes into place to put that out as soon as possible.
Any other questions?
Well, I've just,
You go.
I've just written here, suggest that the locals that, be asked about, use their knowledge of conditions as well, rather than just cruising down the highway. I know there's a fire being started, I don't know how, but just on the side of the highway near our turn off in the last week or so. So,
I think that one's a chain dragged by a truck that the police went and chased him up.
did they? Yeah.
And that's an example of where, reducing the fuel load, so slashing and reducing the fuel load in that case would be a good idea. So that's the competing priorities, I guess, in terms of.
And I'm just curious about the funding for the roadside slashing. It's through the RMPC bucket, but is there a specific allocation for slashing, or is it just, it's just all part of the bigger?
All part of the bigger bucket.
So so really, if you didn't think slashing was as high a priority as maybe some other issue, you could not do as much slashing and maybe do okay somewhere else, yeah.
Yes, but also in saying that those intervention levels, once somebody gets the intervention level, which we know, particularly with the RMPC, there's a lot of things that are already past that intervention level in terms of rutting and potholing and et cetera on those highways. But slashing, I guess, is an easy one to keep on top of. And it is a focus of TMR usually to reduce the risk of animal strikes and that sort of stuff. So, but there is an ability to reduce that slashing and increase the funding somewhere else.
Yeah, because I mean, at the moment, I know when you have your contractors, you've got the set patterns for those contractors. Like, for example, if you give them the Carnarvon Highway, which I know you've done that long ago, little or no rain or vegetation close to Rolleston, but I guess the further south you got towards the ranges, there was more vegetation, which probably required, intervention. But when, how do you assess that when, maybe more than 50% of the road probably doesn't need a slash, but then the southern part does?
Yeah.
Like, you can't very well tell a contractor just do a part of it, like they probably won't. Like, how does that work?
I guess that's something we battle with all the time, even in a road maintenance grade. If we're going to send the grader to the road, there's only half of the road is really in need of grading, and the other half is okay.
Yeah.
But that might be the only time you're going to send that grader there in the next 6 months. So do you do the whole road rather than doing little bits and pieces to get the better efficiency? Just do the whole road, and then you don't have to come back for another 6 to 12 months. Where rather than doing a little bit here and the relocation costs, so grading, roadside slashing, all those sort of things, it needs to be assessed on a case-by-case scenario. So sometimes there is no benefit in doing the rest of that road, either slashing or grading. But in some cases, it's to get the efficiency and the value for money, just do the road, and then you can not have to come back, within a short period of time.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, and roadside spraying too. Is that a contract with council, or is it was on the main road, it was on the Dawson Highway. Sunday at 2:30, they were spraying the roadside. Now, it's all dead. Unless they're using a residual spray, it's absolutely, you might as well run close.
So under the RMPC, there is a general weed, so it's under the slashing item as well, so it's declared weeds and that. And there's a separate contract which we engage with TMR. It's about $60,000 that they give us for declared spray. So that was recently put out to contract for specialised spraying. So I can't name the chemical that was used and whether it was a residual, but the process is for those declared pests. So I'm happy to report back to council with exactly what it is.
Again, it was a contractor,
Yep.
and doing it in the middle of the afternoon, you just don't do that sort of stuff. It's a complete waste of money. So, and on the highway between, it was between, the 5 Mile and Country Terminal. And it's as bare as, what are they doing?
I'll report back to council next
Thanks.
next meeting on the process with weed spraying.
Awesome, thank you, Jason.
No worries, thank you.
Peter Manning.
Good morning, councillors. So just a quick update on a few items this month. So early February, as part of our MOU with Aurobindo, we had 2 of their staff come up and do a site visit some of our plants for a day and a half. So that was their assistant works manager and one of their operators. So we came through Blackwater, Comet, and Eastnagoa on the first day, and on the second day we did a bit of a tour around the Black Gully construction site. At that we discussed whether it's, that we will do more, but we haven't scheduled when the next one is yet. So the Blackwater State High School, the works that we are looking to do on that raw water pipeline, we did get budget in BR2 late last month to get that engagement underway. So at the site meeting last week with the consultant, and although the preparation of concept design will take longer, we're aiming to get the initial cost estimates this week. Attached, well, in the directory, but not part of the agenda, the National Performance Report, the NPR for urban water, was released end of February. So that's the national reporting we do. This is the 4th year we've been sending information there. So although it's 130 pages of report and lots of appendices, a big focus on the large urban areas, just included some of the stats that apply to us. We are counted as a small provider in that group. Our connections is sort of 12,000-ish, so we're just right at the bottom end of the national reporting. So in our band, that average annual residential water, so we have still the highest volume of water supplied in that small category, and that there's been a slight increase from the previous year, lower than the other 2, which is part of us going through that cycle of drought. So that the previous year was one where we had a bit more of that average rainfall. At typical residential bill, we're at that high end of the range in that small providers, above medium, but not the highest. And when you look at the next one, which is the annual bill, where they normalise it on a smaller water usage, which is a bit more what people would have on the coast, we're more or less in the middle of the pack with our water pricing. And again, that combined operating cost for water and sewage, we're roundabout in the middle. That might be slightly influenced by we don't provide sewage service to all our communities, which will drop that down slightly, but overall we are providing both services to a high percentage of our population. There are also reports will come out from the Water Directorate and the Queensland Government on that KPI data we submit. They're still under preparation. And the last item, I guess using our, I'm not sure if the word's exemption, but prescribed activity, I think it's the right one. As a water service provider, we did do silt clean out associated with where our harvest intake is with the Ralston, the Comet River. So we did that silt clean out there. We stopped the works at the existing water hole, making the decision with that exemption is, do the minimum works necessary. There is still water there and didn't want to disturb what was still remaining in the water hole. Us as a water provider, we can only harvest when it's flowed in the creek to a certain level. So making storage in the river at that location doesn't cut us as a legal provider, so. And obviously also the infrastructure guys, Jason's team did that. Happy to take any questions on the items in the report.
Councillor,
Yes, Peter, when you have a look at that photo of your, the clearing of your harvest not being met.
Yep.
I asked the question, have the weeds guys been down there to have a look at what could be like an acne or one of those? I can't see it very well on the photo, but
better ones, councillor Rolfe, I'll let you.
Sorry?
I've got some better photos.
Have you?
So I'll let you run your microscope over that.
I'd have to come back to you, but I would say no, would be,
well, it's time.
okay.
Sorry?
So a question, Pete and Jason, you might be able to help me answer this. And I mean, the community was really enthusiastic about the fact that you were able to move so quickly and get some equipment down there and clean it out. And I've had some feedback, and that is, the question is, could we go further, like under the exemption, could we possibly, there's, like since even the works have been undertaken, I've been down there, and there's the water with evaporation, I don't think there is a fish left in that pond, I don't think there would be too much. Look, my question is, and the question from the community is, generally is, while we have the opportunity, which is not always, that the water level will be so low, really, it's not. This is a golden opportunity, I guess, to probably drain that and dig that hole out. And it's probably, as you rightly say, this is not going to help us in terms of assisting with, harvesting. So it's not really about the harvesting, but creating a greater recreational facility there. And just like over the years, obviously, it is a creek full of river and it's all stilt up. So is it under what we can do? Could we do that or not?
I'd have to, through your other chair, sorry. Probably go back and look at it again. I think it would be more than kind of the minimum works that are allowed under those prescribed activities in that schedule. So it might mean that we need additional permitting rather than just what we can do as not as a water service provider, but as a local government. We can do some works, but I think that's probably more than just that minimum.
Do you need a motion from us to follow up on that, or are you happy just to have a look at it and get back to us?
We would need a motion, but we can get back to you.
Just a point of clarity, we have to be clear what we're doing here. Is it flood mitigation? No, it's not. Is it, so in essence, protecting our water intake is what we do at Capella, is what we do, so that's essential, that's emergent, we can do it. The question would be asked, if you're going to dig, dredge is the word I'm using, if you're going to start dredging 10,000 ton of material out of the river for whatever other purpose, it's totally a different project. And the thing we have to get clear, this is not currently funded. So I'm seeing a struggle here whether if we're pursuing this as a project, then it changes what we're doing. If it's simply what we've done is simply just dealing with clearing our inlet. If the community want the Billabong out to larger capacity, it's a totally different project.
It's not the river.
What do they want dug out?
Yeah,
That's not the river there, is
yes,
it?
it is.
It is actually in the river itself.
And the inlet, and to be fair, it's a stretch of work that we've done, it's like it hasn't really started the inlet, to be fair, the inlet was already clear.
But it's, again, I looked at the photos and couldn't see what worked.
I don't know departmental people have shown in, but really.
So, Councillor, did clarity, I'm happy to act.
The direction is that we would just like you to see, is it possible? We know it's not costed. We're not asking you to do the works, but in terms of this, there's a request from the community, can we do that? Let's find out, can we do it? Is it hard? Let's go, is it possible? We probably need to do it reasonably reasonably quickly. It's like, look, without, you know, just at a high level, can't you look at it? You understand what they're asking, is that, like, the opportunities is, this is a recreational asset for the community of Waterhole. It's council Nixon can remember one time when we had another fish kill, but it was a very long time ago. It's not very often that Waterhole gets to a situation where it's, I think this would have to be the lowest it's ever been, and it's virtually just sludge left there now, not much water at all. Can you possibly dig a deeper hole
Okay, so we'll go through those rules.
What about, what's in the drought policy? What's in our drought policy about is there something in there that, because when we're in drought, that's the thing that everybody does, is clean out the dams, do all that sort of stuff when they all dry out. Is there anything in our drought policy that could?
I know the department doesn't like using that to harvest from because we've got no license, but.
So, but there wouldn't be anything in the drought policy itself because it's a harvest and the water hole's not to take water out of normally a licensing harvest, a harvesting license.
The harvesting license is based on flows. If the river doesn't flow, we can't harvest. So having the biggest, beautifulest Billabong is not, that means we'll have to speak to the department. Effectively what we're constructing is a weir or a water storage in creek, which is a project that is totally different than.
Well, it already is, but it's just desilting it. It's desilting an existing.
That's all
water hole.
Yep.
It just doesn't look good when we, I don't think it's got anything to do with the harvesting. The harvesting is a whole different issue. We need to be able to make sure that holds more water so that it drought proofs Rolleston. There's no other underground water in Rolleston, it's very unreliable. And if we could dig that out while it's dry, you know, we'd have more water there. It'd last longer so that it's drought proofing that town.
So it's different, it's a different department, so it becomes, if we can attack it from a different angle.
We
Can we think outside the square?
We can try that, but it is a sizable amount of dredging, and I think just unofficially, I'm still feeling the pain. Apparently, there's suggestions that our works that we did in the Gower River was also in breach of dredging because it exceeded whatever. But in case I don't got no concerns about that. I think it's a departmental officer that's got the wrong end of the stick. But if he's not dredging, serious removal of material out of the river, it's a different set of rules. We can't just do it under this emergent one. Self-assessment.
But as I said, if we'll work through the rules and see if we can do that, or if we need to
That's all right.
apply for
I mean,
it.
let's have a look into the opportunity to be a little bit creative.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as though we get an extended drought like this very often, and I think that it's the ideal opportunity now to get in and make that more reliable for future. So, like if it's some department, we've got to go and knock on the door and talk to them, and I think that we have to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, look, then to be fair, I mean, you guys went so quickly, within a week of the request, you had somebody down there, so it was very much appreciated, and I think it surprised the community that one day they asked about it, the next day there was someone there, and I thought that, and I just, the feedback I'm getting is that they were so excited, and it's like, oh, that, could we do more? Like, anyway, if we can, that would be great. So thank you very much, Peter, General Manager.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
may I ask
sorry.
a question?
Sorry, Councillor Hemmings.
Through the chair to Peter, the national performance reporting that's interesting about us being the largest or the highest user in the lower, in the smaller category. I was just wondering what percentage of water use would you attribute to, I guess, is it non-external, externally chargeable, what would be council and you can take it on notice and come back with me if you like.
We probably don't have necessarily the split with Hopewell for council. in Emerald, where we're using raw water, that's onto, sports fields and things, that's typically 10% of our quarterly bills.
Yeah.
Is that use on the big parks, so that is something that we are looking at, obviously. And the sort of gut numbers in the towns of how much we put out as water and what comes back as wastewater is about 50% of it's coming back, give or take, which does show there's a big amount goes on external.
Okay, so you're thinking about 50% is council or non-chargeable, I guess?
Oh, no, sorry, just in terms of resident, water supplied and water coming back.
Yeah.
As sewerage, so that's residential and commercial. Only half of it comes back, so of course that means probably about half is external out of the house.
Okay.
Did I explain that well? So say to a house, 200 kilolitres is going through the meter.
Yeah.
100 kilolitres is coming back through sewage, which means it's going into the house and coming back through
Oh, no,
toilets and what have you.
I'm trying to work out how much are we using as an organisation or the non-chargeable stuff as opposed to split to.
We're still working through what we use as an organisation as a whole.
Yeah.
But certainly the big uses in Emerald where it's raw water, we know that use.
It'd be good to see that mix.
We are trying to dig through that, but it means go through Rains Hills.
Yeah, no, because of the fact that we are the highest water user, I was just wondering what influence is our community, I guess, assets playing on that as opposed to people and their usage habits.
When we see the other reports, so the Queensland Water Report, which does cover like all the providers in Queensland, the numbers, just not last year, but the year before, the state reporting, does show the marked difference between the coast and from us west. So we have that sort of water use that the Western councils have, where it's dry and a lot of people need to water their lawns and gardens, whereas on the coast people don't because it's rain. So it's not, although this shows us high nationally, that report isn't going to providers that are smaller than 10,000, which is a lot of like us west into the big red area.
What sort of timeframes do you think it is on when you'll get that data around that split between?
Well, we certainly have the big raw water use. But we are trying to dig through the accounts to get more of the parks, gardens, roadside use. All that is like 6 months behind. Or 3 months behind when we do the meter readings.
I'm conscious of time.
Can we at some stage get a report on that?
Yes, we are.
We're commencing work on a overall consumption capacity supply strategy to work towards what I call day zero. Just heads up, but basically we're starting our work on it to analyse where is our savings to be at. The positive is that Parks and Gardens have since way behind restrictions we introduced. We forced them to start rationalising their raw water and potable use on Parks and Gardens. So there's a big piece of work done. I don't know what the positive flow on is in terms of production and consumption. On that.
Councillor Nixon.
Just what's happened at the Willows? Is everything being sorted there for water, or what was the result of that testing for green algae?
The pump was repaired. We did do the blue-green test, which from memory did have varying species. I think the toxin levels were really low. And it was a non-drinking supply. We did do that testing, which was a couple months ago.
pray for rain.
That segues me straight into just for information, drought relief funding arrangements, just for the information that came through again, which means we're still sitting in the wings waiting for our drought declaration. I know that that's not my remit, but I believe there's the committee who decides these things hasn't convened, but we'll have to just wait till that kicks in, then we, for the whole council area, then we can also incorporate that in our water supply, emergent water supply, so that we should put us in lines.
Yeah, I don't think they need emergent water just yet, do they? Or maybe some households do, but I think the main problem was at the pump and the dam and also that blue-green algae contamination. So, yeah, thank you.
So my first report is taken as read. The second one was just worth making council aware that the state infrastructure plan does exist, and there are projects that's been through the first few rounds, 2 rounds of maturing infrastructure pipeline have been slotted in there, and obviously some of them had successful outcomes so far, the sales yard, and other projects are all either in progress or will be progressed in the next budget. And that's it. If there's no questions on the infrastructure departmental update, open.
Well, exactly, the absolute record from Gerard today. Well done. I said 5 minutes. Any questions? Any questions for Gerard? No, that's good. We do have some closed session items which will take a little bit of discussion, so I'm glad we've still got time for that. But councillors, any general business before we move into closed session? Well, if not, can I have somebody move receipt of the infrastructure and utility? Thank God. Councillor Daniel, seconded. Councillor Roll, in favour. We received the infrastructure and utilities report there as per recommendation on the screen. There's no general business. If I can have someone move into closed session. Councillor Daniel, seconded. Welcome back, live streamers. We have three resolutions here in relation to the closed session items we've just reviewed. Straight up, we have a recommendation there in relation to the Bowen Basin Regional Roads Transport Group, the joint bitumen reseal procurement. The resolution should be there in front of you, councillors. If someone will move that, do Councillor Ross, second Councillor Brindletone, all in favour? Carried. The next one is the departmental update from infrastructure and utilities. That resolution is there. Move Councillor Brindletone, seconded Councillor Roll. Have we got that? All in favour? Carried. And the last one is the departmental update from customer and commercial services. I have a mover, Councillor Nixon, seconded Councillor Roll. All in favour? Carried. Meeting is closed. Thanks for your valuable contributions. Thanks, live streamers. Stay tuned for community.